Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live webinar that we have today. I am just going to let people start joining us. Hi, Pat. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Yeah, lovely to be here. Thank you.
Super. Welcome. We're so excited to have you. Um, just going to get started. We've got people joining us right now. You just got back from a recent trip to the United States. Am I right?
I just got back from Virginia and Miami Beach. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Three
how
weeks.
wonderful. And
Yeah.
how was it? Was the weather okay over here? I know that you haven't been having spectacular weather over there, but how was the weather in the US? Did it
It
behave for
was
you?
pretty good most of the time, just an occasional really cold day, but generally, yeah, pretty good, pretty good. And I loved it, yeah. And was with wonderful
Oh,
people. Fantastic work, yeah. Mm, yeah.
yes, that's wonderful. Well, we are going to get started here. We're so excited to invite you back to the United States. As people are joining, would you just let us know in the chat box where you're joining us from? And if it's from the UK, well, thank you because I know it's late where you are. It's about 1 o'clock here. Behind me, I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we are running Madeline Island School of the Arts workshops here for the month of April and May. And what's behind me is Chimney Rock, and that's at Ghost Ranch in Abiquiu. And that's where we are running workshops. Let me just to give you everyone who's joining us, let me just give you a preview of what we're doing. You've joined us today for a live webinar with Q&A with Pat Southern Pearce. Pat is joining us today from Blackburn in Lancashire, England. And we are so excited to talk about her hugely popular workshop that she has scheduled with us in Bar Harbor this fall, September 16th to the 20th. It's a brand new location for us and very popular. We haven't been able to run workshops up in the Northeast corner that often, but we are certain that this is going to be a fabulous location for everyone to join us, specifically highlighting Pat's work. Pat, can you just give us an idea about how you got started?
Well, I've always enjoyed drawing. Even as a teeny girl, I used to draw princesses and things like that. Um, and I always wanted, when I grew up, to teach art and English. And my grammar school wanted me to go to university and do the traditional female languages and art route. And I had a wonderful art teacher at high school who was fresh from the Royal College in London. And he said to me, no, no, Pat. He said, you should go to art school and really do art properly. And he stood up for me and I applied to art school. And I trained as a painter for 5 years. And I wouldn't have changed that training for anything. Yeah. Trained as a painter with lithography. Loved it. Yeah.
Really? And so what were you using? What were the materials? What were you using? Oils, watercolor? What were you using? All
I was
sorts.
trained in oils with turpentine on big canvases. We
Wow.
painted life drawing models on huge canvases. And I did one that was 5 foot square. We had sketchbooks. I got my first sort of real tone paper. I made my own sketchbooks there, A4, A3. And we took sketchbooks with us everywhere. That's the roots of my urban sketching. Were at art school because we kept a sketchbook all the time. But when I got married and started working in schools, I didn't sketch for years. Not until my daughter was growing up, not until my first husband left, and a friend of mine in North Carolina, America again, said, come to me, Pat, for 5 weeks. And I did. And just before I got on the plane, a long-term time friend passed me a tiny gift. And you know, it was an A6 teeny sketchbook with a grey hardback cover. And he said, Pat, I'd love to come with you, but I can't. So will you take this with you wherever you go and be my eyes and ears? Draw on street corners, don't make a big fuss, and write your thoughts down. And you know, that was a gift that changed my life. I drew in New Orleans, in Asheville, all over America with my friend, and came back, and I carried on.
And that was really sort of what took you, that's what sort of sets you apart from other urban sketchers, is it? Is it sort of when you draw on different colored paper, is that how that's how you got started? Is that it?
Well, there's moot point. When I was at art school and made my sketchbooks, unusually, everybody did white paper ones, but I did one or two with tone paper and black and enjoyed it. Now, when I started sketching again, I automatically went for white. And for years, I drew on white, in a black pen, in monochrome, a little colour. But around 2016, so not all that long ago, 2015, there wasn't much tone paper sketching around at all. And I saw on Facebook a page that was like something out of the Book of Kells. It was all grey with black and gold and bright red. And I thought, that would be wonderful for sketching. And I bought a grey Strathmore sketchbook, 2015, and that was it. I was hooked. So it wasn't planned, it just happened. I went from grey to craft brown and then started trying any kind of colours. And now I use rag paper, lots of colours, bright red, bright blue. And I also do my own pre-prepared backgrounds and use them digitally as well as on paper. So it's been an evolution, yeah.
I would say, and what I've noticed more than anything, Pat, about the color of the paper is that you can feel the emotion. It's sort of you can feel that place depending on, when you use the black. Well, let's instead of talking about it, how about we go through some of them and talk about what you were feeling at that time and how those drawings spoke to you and how that place and that destination spoke to you. I have some of yours. I have a bit of a slideshow. We could go through and take a look at some of them if that's okay. Let me see if we can get, my colleague is just going to screen share. Thank you, Maddie. Okay, so tell me about this one, Pat.
Can't see it yet.
Okay. This one is of Delaware, the U.S. Life Saving Station in Delaware. Can you see that one? Let me unpin you. Move pin. Can you see that now?
I can see. It's in the top. Yeah. Yes. Well, Delaware is almost like my home from home in America because I'm going again after I've been to you in Bar Harbor for the fourth time by request. And this was, I think it was the second visit I made to Lewis in Delaware. And it was a feeling you were saying. It's a sense of place. I love the clapperboard houses you have in America. And of course, there are some in Bar Harbor, aren't there? I've been drooling over them. And here was a perfect one to me. And the feel of the whiteness of the diagonal clouds that kept the feeling of the sea and just the whole sense of it and the feeling of sunlight and cold as well. Yeah.
It's amazing. What kind of material, what are you using for your, what are you using? Is this pen?
Oh, well, it's mixed media. It's fountain. Quite often I use a Twisby or a Lamy Safari, and I use a feud pen with a bent nib. My favorite, Duke Confucius, but all the white is a Mitsubishi Signal Uniball. And some people buy the small ones. It has to be a broad one in order for it to run smoothly. And some people press on hard. And if you do, it makes it scratchy. But if you relax your hand, it sort of flows like liquid cream on the paper.
Wow. That's
Mm.
fabulous. I mean, you can just sort of tell what kind of day it was. It almost looks like it was sort of just what was the time of year you were here?
I think it was March.
Okay.
I think it was March. Yeah.
And when you say, can we look at the next one, Maddie? Oh wow, this looks like it's in Delaware, and
Yeah.
it wrote and tell me about where or what time of day and everything about this one.
Well, this was March again, but this time it was so cold. This was my first trip to Delaware, and this red boat was a gift because I rarely get to draw boats, and the bright red one was just magical. And we had a special day. I'd done my workshop, and we had a special day, and Delaware Urban Sketches met with me for a day, and we went to this boat and we sketched, and we were all huddled up in woolly warm coats, hats, scarves, gloves, boots, and we were still shivering, and we were under a shelter. But and there's a feeling of cold about that, and I remember that cold so strongly. And you see the little stars and stripes flag at the bottom.
Yeah, it looks like
That
a
was
hand. Was it a hand wipe that you got?
it was a little salt packet that I
Nice.
had in a cafe somewhere, and I thought, oh yes, this had to go on here. And then I played with the title Delaware and put some spots on that so that it carried the fun feel through.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's wonderful. And the black, what color would you call this paper?
It's a dark grey.
Dark
Um,
gray. It really just
dark-
captures it, and it you can see that sort of cold and overcast, not like the other one before. Let's see the next one, Maddie.
oh yes. Well, that's a local one.
Oh,
Um, Lytham St Anne's. I'm probably about less than an hour from the sea. So it's not all that far, but I don't get there very often. And I love to draw piers. You know, I love drawn lines against the light. And a pier is just a joy with all its fine tracery of lines. And this was on a pre-prepared ground. You can see with drips, and it's ink and it's watercolor, lots of water, different colors dropped in. And the fun thing about doing these prepared grounds is we can choose what to leave in and what to cover up.
mm,
And you see the pink in the sky. That wasn't there, but I just liked it because it was fun. And it's reflected as it happens in the pink in the sea, but that was pure accident. It gives more of an interest than if it was a pure yellow page or a pure white page.
it absolutely does. And I love all the different mediums that you're using. The gouache, the watercolor, the ink. It just all works for you. It comes together. The different colors in this picture, Pat, just show you what a wonderful sort of, I mean, was it warm? It must have been, it sort of to me looks like it's a late afternoon.
Well, actually, this one was a drawing with a difference because this was, what's the date? It must have been during COVID
Yes,
because, yes,
2020, August 2020.
2020, that year I'd had COVID twice. I caught it in America. And, yeah, I came back on the plane and I was well when I got on. 5 days later, back in the UK, I was really badly poorly, but I didn't go in hospital. And of course, Ribble, our sketch group, no sketch groups could meet face to face. We were all cut off and shut in. And so we set up a sister group to our local sketching group called Virtual Ribble, where we were allowed to draw from photographs. And we chose a different place every week and posted drawings from those photographs or from Google Images. And
Yeah.
because it was COVID, we threw the invitation open worldwide, and we had hundreds of people from all over the world joining in with this. So it was from a photograph, it wasn't real.
Oh, interesting. Well, it's fabulous. Pat, yeah, my new friend Mona Chen, who was just with us here in Santa Fe taking Maru and Suhita's class,
Yeah.
has a question for you. What
Yeah.
is the turquoise color? Is it watercolor or gouache or acrylic?
Well spotted. The turquoise is a favourite Posca bullet-tipped colour called aqua green. And it was given to me on my first trip to Delaware by the sketcher whose home I stayed with. She had one and I borrowed it and I thought, oh, I like this because it things and I use it for titles. You'll spot it a lot. And I came home and bought two more. I don't like Poscas generally, but I love the aqua green and I love their sky blue. So a good question. I'm glad you asked that.
Yes, she's very talented. I have another question for you. Do the areas of your prepared grounds interfere with a sketch? So, like, how do you know where to splash color before choosing the scene?
Well, the colours I prepare, I generally do about 6 at once, and they're not done with a specific location in mind. They're just done randomly.
Wow.
So I might go out to sketch with 3 or 4 or 5 with me, and I get somewhere and I look at what I want to draw and I look at my papers. I might swivel them round. If there's a big dark area, I'll think, oh yeah, that could be good for the dark trees, and that's a start. Sometimes the colour fits what I'm doing, but there are colours that I would never put in there, but they're a bonus.
Mm. It just all seems to work perfectly. This is a gorgeous one. Thank you for answering that question. Maddie, can we get to the next sketch? Thank you. Oh,
Oh.
wow. Incredible. Tell us. This must have been, was this during a symposium?
This was in Porto. Yes, this was in
Yeah.
Porto. And there's such a story for this because this began life as me sitting in the front of a bus on a tour of Porto when there was a quiet day. And I sat on the front seat of a bus, and whenever it stopped anywhere, I scribbled, at the lights or groups of buildings. And I just kept scribbling and scribbling. And then at the bottom, there's the big bridge. And after I was with a friend, after we'd been on the bus, we went on a boat trip down the river, right down, and that was in front of us, this big arch of a bridge. And I had all these half-linked drawings and little bits and pieces. And when I came home, I just played with it and linked. I did bits from memory that I remembered. I filled in little bits of colour. I did some negative space work. I added the title in colours at the bottom, Porto, and I added a lot of blue to give a feeling of distance. And it just grew out of the paper.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I love the details and the windows and all of that. Our friend Scott Peterson, who's taken multiple workshops with us, absolutely loves your lettering. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Oh, well, I love doing lettering. I love adding it, and I do write an italic hand anyway. But in my evolution from art school onwards, I came across Ronnie McIntosh, Scottish architect and artist, and I have a book of his watercolor drawings and paintings of flowers. And there's a little lozenge in the corner of each with his initials on and the date. And they were done in a very Art Deco, loose, relaxed kind of way. And they really spoke to me. And that started me thinking, I'd like to work like this in my sketchbook. It wasn't copied from him. I sort of played about with that starting point. And when I work in my sketchbooks on the pages, I stretch the letters and I compress them. I make them taller, I make them smaller. And I change the colours according to what's in the picture. I might write with my aqua green Posca or a black italic pen, and they can fill in. If I've done a sketch and had to stop, and there's a big empty space in a sketch, I can fill it with lettering, and it balances. It helps to finish the sketch off.
I would have to say it's also very unique to you, Pat. You could just tell it's a wonderful it's a wonderful way for it to make it yours. And I look forward to seeing it on each of your pieces that you do. And you're right. You're right, Scott. It's a wonderful way to fill the space with the lettering. I was going to say that as well. It balances it out. Could we see the next one, Maddie? Oh,
Oh,
wow. Tell us about this.
well, this is very, very quiet, isn't it? This was in Niagara-on-the-Lake last year, September, around my birthday, the same time as I'm with you this time.
Yeah.
And love drawing gazebos. I'm always drawing them wherever I go. If there is one, I home in on it. And I just, it was the end of the day. It had a sunny end of day, and the feeling is there, even though it's such a limited colour palette. It was the end of the day, it was totally quiet, families were wandering, so peaceful, and they were even making a little film, but nobody was disturbed. And I just sat there on the grass and drew and tried to get the feel of the light on the water. And if you notice the white on the gazebo, a lot of people, when they use white on toned paper, they automatically do everything that's white, white, and it's overkill. But if you look really hard, when white is in shadow at all, it isn't pure white anymore. So you want a lesser white with a coloured pencil or even a grey coloured pencil, and suddenly you get a much more three-dimensional feel.
Remind me what is the name of the pen you said, the white pen, Pat?
It's a Mitsubishi Signo Uniball Broad.
Okay, we'll put that into the chat box if people are wondering.
Do well, I have tried so many and there isn't anything to touch it. I buy several at a time. I won't be without one of those.
And you can just get those online too, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And will you remind me the name of the person, Pat, that you said initially inspired you to do the lettering? Did you say he was a Scottish?
It was Charles Rennie, Rennie
Yeah.
Mackintosh, Glasgow architect, painter. He designed the Glasgow School of Art.
Okay.
And lots of buildings in Scotland, yeah.
Interesting. That's wonderful. And what kind of inks are you using? Kathy would like to know. What kind of ink?
I mostly use black ink. Almost always use black, and I use a variety of blacks. I mean, often I use De Atramentis black. I like Mont Blanc black because it's very intense. I don't need to use waterproof black ink because I don't put paint on or water on afterwards. So it's a nice dense black fountain pen ink. Yeah.
So what are your steps when you let's look at the next picture, and I'd love for you to tell me the steps that you used.
Okay. Oh,
Oh, wow, this is one of my favorites.
this is very different. This was in Australia, my first trip to Australia, and I went for 3 months and I taught 7 workshops. And I travelled around and it was incredible. And this was another harbour. And this was a veranda around the side of a building overlooking a boatyard. And of course, drawing on black is a very, very different kettle of fish. It's something that needs to be taught separately. Maybe when I come to Bar Harbour, we can do a day on black because it's very, very different. It takes no prisoners because, of course, you put something on black and it disappears. If you put white on, can be too strong. So if you look at this really carefully, I've actually drawn with, I think, a gold metallic Mitsubishi, nice fine gold. A lot of the drawing is straight on with that, no pencil. And probably as a counteraction to that, I will have used an ochre or a gold coloured pencil. And then look at the white bits between the railings and the sails. If you cover those up and take them away, the whole of that loses its bounce. That's all the light coming through the railings and the white on the masts of the boats, and it bounces it all. And then you look up and you've got the little fragments of white where the trees end and the edge of the parasols start. So the white is very important in that.
Unbelievable. It just comes together. So again, like I was saying, let's see the next one, Maddie. Okay. Oh, this was one of my favorite ones. Can you tell me the steps that you went through on this? So if I was
Okay.
going to be taking a workshop, what are we going to do first?
Well, this was another one that was done from a photograph because of COVID.
All right.
I would be looking into the distance first of all, because the important part, apart from all the boats and things and the jetty thing on the left, is the horizon and the feeling of space beyond. And so I would have started that with probably pale blue coloured pencil and drawn the horizon line where those hills are and the darker ones in front. Because once those are done, I can then work with the sails to the left and the black part, but that needs to be in first because it sets the scene.
Okay.
And while I have, this is probably something that's just, I do this and I've always done it. If I have a colour in my hand, I'll say, where else can it go? And if I was doing the blue at the far back, I would use that same blue and start work on the sky, and I would come right forward and start with the diagonal lines of the water near too. Whenever I have a colour, I use it elsewhere, and that makes sure that a sketch is unified, because it's so easy to say, oh yeah, the sky's blue, this is red, and you've got these bands of separate colours. But if you move around and you feel it and you're flexible, then it's always balanced. Has that answered it, do you think?
Yes, it does. I think all of your sketches are so nicely balanced. Where was this, by the way? Skipple Creek.
It's just up the motorway from me, on the way to the Lake District near Lancaster. Yes, in the UK.
This is all of the pictures that we have. Do you have any others that you want to share with us, Pat?
Oh yeah, 1 or 2 here. Yeah, I've got my books now. I got
That's
this.
wonderful.
I wanted to show you this because you were talking about feeling in things, and this was done with my Feud pen, with the bent nib. And quite often I dip in with my Feud because it's so juicy and you can play with it and it just sort of glides and dances on the paper. And if you turn the Feud pen over to the back, it's very fine. So if you look carefully, look at the very fine lines. And then you've got the thick ones, because the length of the bend of the Feud nib is what dictates how wide a dark line you can make. So all those long, dark patches of foliage are done with the bent bit of the nib. And when you start to put white on, look at the white.
Fascinating.
Once it's all done in black, you can take the Mitsubishi white when the black is dry, and you can start to go inside the shapes and start to make them come alive.
That's gorgeous. And I love it on the gray background, the light gray background. It just pops off of there.
Thank you. And another one.
Pat, can you give us an idea of what a typical day of sketching you would be doing? And what materials do you typically, you'll provide us with a materials list, but tell us what materials you most commonly use.
Using. Okay. Well, one of the things, let's see, the things I've been talking about, that's the Mitsubishi Signal Uniball.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'm a visual person.
Visual person. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is my go-to black pencil.
Okay.
And it's a Staedtler, and it's a Staedtler Mars Lumograph black.
Okay.
And the beauty of it is, it's not like graphite, like normal graphite. Normal graphite shines, doesn't it? But this is matte. and it's very black, it's very intense. And this is an 8B, but please be careful if you're ordering one, because I've done workshops and people have looked for one and they bought them and they've had a green body rather than a black one, and they're not the same for some reason. So check that they have a black body. Okay, yeah. Now, I want to show you this, which I don't often talk about, but this was a gift to me when I did a workshop in Belgium about 4 years ago in Brussels. And it was given to me by a friend over there, and she is an architect and she uses these all the time. And just before I was leaving, she said, "This is for you, Pat." And it's magical. It's called Tous les jours. Tous les jours. And the nib is a cross between a ballpoint. You can see it very close. It's a cross between a ballpoint and a gel pen. But if you want to do something really quickly and you're short of time, it gives the finest of lines. It's like drawing with a nail. I just love it. I've got lots of refills for it. You can buy it. I think you can get it on Amazon. And there's a company in Ireland called the Hunter Paper Company. And you can get this one and others that are as nice or even nicer from them. In fact, I bought several and I lost my pencil case with all my favourite things in Atlanta Airport. So, but I can recommend you have a look. The Hunter Paper Company in Belfast. Yeah. That's my uni ball, the Posca, the aqua green with the bullet tip. What size is it? Uni PC 1.8 to 2.5 millimeter. There we are. Yep.
And that
Now,
you have that in lots of different colors, Pat?
No.
Yes.
This is the funny thing. I bought lots of Poscas and I don't use them. But this particular one does me proud and I love it to bits. I've just bought another one. This one and a sky blue. This is called aqua green. It's especially useful. Yep.
Especially with the different colored paper, correct?
Exactly. It really jumps out on the paper. Sometimes I use it to outline buildings if I'm sketching, and I very often use it for titles. You were talking about outlining buildings. That's something I haven't mentioned here today at all. And
Tell us
that's
about
that. Yeah, when I go out to sketch, the thing that never fails to excite me is shapes against the sky. Whatever the shapes are, they may be like here. I can show you one here. Oh, here we are. This is on Indian rag paper, but you can see that was in Niagara on the Lake, and we were going around looking for places for me to sketch, and this was a church. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh yes, that has to be. And you see the tree again drawn in my feud and the white against it. But I haven't done all the tree white. I've left bits, but there's the shape against the sky. And here's another shape against the sky, but this is on a white background, but it's pre-prepared. And this was during an online course I was teaching recently. And the whole of the online course session was only an hour and a half. And we did all of these. And they were 5 to 7 minute sketches.
That's
you can see really, really fast. But if you got close, every single one, I was teaching about composition and choosing what you want to draw and drawing it quickly. But it's the shape that leads you in. If you're just starting sketching and you're thinking, how can I start? Look up and look for the shape of something against the sky, draw that skyline, and you can't go wrong.
What fun. It also is so dramatic and unique to you, Pat. I think it's just fantastic. And it seems to me that this the your the way you create these images can be for beginners and people that are trying something.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It sort of appeals to everyone.
yeah. We quite often, I mean, the courses I ran this time in Virginia, it was a 4-day course, and there was a complete range of people, from people who hadn't drawn before to really experienced artists, and they all took a lot away with them from it. Yeah.
And how do you typically start your day with a demo, Pat? Is that what you or do you start with in classroom instruction and then maybe go on location with a demo? And then how does that work for you?
I like to do a skill building session in the mornings.
Mm.
And for me, I like to look at materials, because often the materials I use are things people have bought and they've never used before. They don't know what to do with them, they're different. And people can have materials, but they've used them in a different way. I like to share different kind of materials. We look at blacks, and people collect whatever blacks they have. And the ones that make soft marks, the ones that make fine lines, the ones that are thick. And then we look at whites. What kind of whites? You know, smudgy whites. For example, these are something that I recommend people buy. And these are watercolor crayons, Peter Pauper, but they're for children. They're not expensive, and they're greasy like lipsticks, and they twist up. And the white, if I say, look, twist it up like a
Oh,
lipstick, like that.
oh,
Yeah. And on
wonderful.
top, oh, just magic. And if you're doing a sky, and you put the sky blue and the dark blue together,
They blend.
oh, blending with the white puts it
What
together.
fun.
Oh, it is
And how
really,
different from typical using a brush. What a fun, different.
oh,
These will be all on your materials list, correct, Pat? Okay.
absolutely. Do you know, people say to me, people organize these things, say, Pat, can you make your materials list shorter? Because people are going to think, goodness me, I need all this. So I make the materials list shorter. And every single person who comes says, what have you used there? What's the name of it? I want it. And everybody's buying all the things. So whatever I use, I'll share and let you know. But you don't need them all, but you might want them later.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure you'll always get good use out of it. Pat, it sounds like this 5-day workshop is going to be wonderful. First of all, finally in person. I know that so many of our people that are on this Zoom and that have taken Zoom online classes with you before. So actually to be able to see you stateside in person is such a treat. And 5 days really gives you that time to sort of build confidence and skills over the beginning of the week, and then to the end, just to see what people have created will be amazing. And I have no doubt that you will find those gazebos and those pilings in Bar Harbor, Maine, for sure.
Oh, and the
That
clapperboard houses, yes,
and the
yes,
board, yep,
oh,
and
yeah.
all of that, the lobster shacks and everything like that, and the sails and the boats. I mean, it just couldn't be a better spot for you to be in. It screams, Pat Southern Pearce. So we can't wait for you to join us. You had mentioned you and I we had been talking about this workshop, and you had mentioned that you use Procreate, an iPad once in a while. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, um, because I tutor at symposiums for urban sketches on my travels, of course, I tutored, I met Rob Sketchman, who is the king of Procreate and digital drawings, and he's fantastic. And one year, I'm probably going back, not all that long ago, maybe 2017, something like that. He was coming to the UK, and he said, "Oh, Pat," with his wife, and he said, "From Hong Kong." he said, I can't come to the UK. We can't come to the UK and not see you, Pat, again. So I said, well, come and stay with me. So he and his wife came to the north of England from London, where they were down south. And they stayed for 5 days. And of course, I said to the sketchers locally and the people in Manchester and Yorkshire, and said, Rob Sketcherman's coming to stay with me. If anybody wants to join us, we're going to sketch for 5 days, hop around to the Lake District all over, and you're welcome to come. And sketchers came from far and wide every day. We went to the coast, and he also ran a workshop in my studio here, and that was full, and we had afternoon tea out somewhere in a park, and that was wonderful. But when we sketched, Rob Sketchman said, borrow my second best iPad Pro and play. I said, I would love to, because up till then, I'd only had a go on an iPad Air, a little one, and I'd been drawing on my Samsung Note with a stylus, very small. But Rob's iPad Pro was 12.9, and we went to Onside by the estuary, and he gave it me, and I sat and I drew, and it was pure magic. And I didn't bother about layers and all the things you're supposed to do, because I didn't know anything about that. I just got my screen, I found a brush that did a fine line, and I drew. And the only time I had to shout for help was if it died. I didn't know what to do, or I didn't know where to find anything. And he was at arm's length, sort of a few yards away. But after that, I never stopped. And he said to me, Pat, you took to it like a duck to water. And I wanted to buy that from him. And he said, I can't sell it because it's got too much stuff on, but you need to buy one. But wait until the new one comes out. And I bought my first one in Australia in 2019 and love it. But I do my own thing. The pre-prepared backgrounds, I suddenly thought, if I photograph these and import them into Procreate, I know I can do backgrounds in Procreate, but it's not the same as ink and water ones. So I photographed them, imported them, swiveled them, cropped them, and I suddenly had this whole mass of backgrounds. And I'd had salt on them, so they were really textured. I'd used a palette knife to get fine lines, and the world opened up. And I want to share that at Bar Harbour. So I thought, well, if we have an evening and anybody's got an iPad, it's not something I can only visualize me teaching this if it's face to face. I had a teeny bit of it in Virginia this time when I was on my 4 days, because they had 4 days. But in Bar Harbour, we'll have 5 days. We can do some backgrounds. We can photograph them. We can have a go at drawing on them digitally and also drawing them on paper. And maybe we can do some more later on.
That sounds wonderful. Pat, just going back, will you be doing any instruction of how to prepare the paper in the beginning of the workshop?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. The first day, when we do our skills, we will do some pre-prepared backgrounds so that we can use those to draw on. Oh, yes. And I will bring inks. I've got a bigger version of this, which is, it zips round and it's shockproof and it goes in my case. I've got a big one and a small one. So I can bring some inks with me. But if people are in America, if they bring their own inks too, that will be helpful, because I can only carry so much. But oh yes, we'll have fun. And it'll be messy.
Like messy's good. Messy's always good. Can you, before we wrap things up, I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. How do you choose your scenes and locations? Is it always outside? Are there indoor? Do you do figures ever? I don't notice. I'm just, curious.
I'll have to share some of my, occasionally I do figures. I never think about them. In the early days, I used to regard people as, oh, heck, they're in the way. I'm trying to draw this and these people are in the way. But I went at my first symposium in Manchester, when I was lucky enough to be appointed as a tutor, which was fantastic. I went on a workshop by James Richards, and his workshop was called Capturing the Crowd. And he opened my eyes to eye levels, a figure in the foreground that's more detailed. I absolutely loved it. And from then on, drawing people, it never really scared me, but I love drawing people, but I don't think about it. But if I'm in a busy place, I do think, oh yeah, because to do it well, you need to start with the people first. And then when the people are there, you build the surroundings around them. If you start to add the people after, it's never the same. So you have to be in that zone, the people zone. I'll have to pass you some people pictures over to see. Now, something else. What attracts me? Well, it's always shapes against the sky. Always shapes against the sky. I remember teaching at the symposium in Amsterdam, and it was almost like being back in school, because we got this lovely group and all these wonderful gabled buildings, and they traced the shape of the buildings with their fingers in the air to say that is the shape with the chimney against the sky. And once you've done that, you're away, you can do it.
I agree. I mean, that we need to remember that for a name for one of your workshops, the shapes against the sky. I think that's so wonderful, because it's so unique of you, and with the different color paper, you capture the cold, you capture the heat, you capture the quietness, you capture all the different, it's not just the lines and the marks that you put on the paper, it's just the way that you capture, and you're not always filling the paper.
No.
Have so much, I don't want to say white space, because it's not white, because the paper's not white. It's just you have a lot of empty space, which really works for you. And it's just so unique. And I think it's a really fun way for people that are sort of stuck in that urban sketching rut to break free and try this sort of different way that you do this, Pat. And I'm so excited to give everyone in the United States, or who want to travel from the UK over, to invite you to join us at this workshop in Bar Harbor. One last thing I want to ask you, what are you most looking forward to your Madeline Island School of the Arts workshop in Bar Harbor? What excites you?
Well, I have been following instructors in Bar Harbor, not in Bar Harbor, in Madeline Island, and Santa Fe, different places, and I have watched them with starry eyes and thought, oh, I'd love to be a part of this. And this year it happened, and it's Bar Harbor, which to me is like the icing on the cake, because I don't get to see harbours very much. I don't get to see boats. You've seen a few here because I sent you some, but I don't get them often. And I love verticals. Yes, I love shapes against the sky, but I love verticals. And harbours and boatyards are full of them. And when you clapperboard houses, I've seen photographs of by the edge of all these lovely buildings together, and the street, it's just, my eyes are like stars, and I'm thinking, I can't wait to come and have 5 days and be with everyone for the 5 days, be able to do an evening as well, and be inside to teach in a place that's tailor-made for it, and then go out and sketch and have 5 days to do it. It will just be wonderful.
Yeah. I agree, Pat. It's going to be an experience. And we just have a few spots left in your workshop. So we're hoping that people will just fill it up, because the more people, the more energy we have. And it's not an easy trip for you to get over to us from the UK. So we do appreciate, all your travels, getting here, so that everyone can get a chance to see what it's like to work alongside of you. Pat. We are going to wrap this up, and I just want to let everyone know again, September 16th to the 20th. I appreciate everyone's questions. They've been so wonderful. You'll be with us in Bar Harbor. The weather in Bar Harbor in September is glorious. It's
Oh,
not too cold, and the leaves are not quite turned, but that's okay. It's still a fabulous time to be out on the water with beautiful sunrises and sunsets. So again, if anyone is interested in signing up, they can go to our website, which is madelineschool.com. They also, your link is on your website as well, correct, Pat?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Super. So definitely check us out. We're looking forward to having you. Are there any last things you want to say, Pat, while we're here?
Well, there's something I haven't shared, and I think I
do.
should, that we're starting on September 16th. And would you believe that is my birthday?
Did not know that. Well, what's going to be an extra special?
An extra
Donna
special?
Deaver has said Bar Harbor is a fabulous place to sketch. And she says, thank you, Pat, for such a wonderful, wonderful presentation. And I couldn't
Oh,
agree with her more. We
thank
need to
you.
see more of you in the United States. We're so happy that you took the time. And again, the feeling is mutual. We've looked at you from afar for so long. And, Misa is, we'd like to think that we have wonderful, wonderful instructors, and to add you to it is really a pleasure for us. So
Oh,
thank you so
fantastic.
much, Pat. We're looking forward to it. And we will, for anyone that didn't join us on this webinar, we are going to send out the recording to those people that registered and couldn't be on it. We all will also link it on your workshop page on our website, Pat. So that way everyone will have a chance to get to know everything that you've done. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for took the time to join us. We have everyone saying thank you, thank you. Carol, it was wonderful seeing you as well. And we will catch up soon. Thank you so much, Pat.
My pleasure. It's been wonderful. I've
It
just
has
loved being here. Yeah. And I
amazing.
can't wait for September. Yeah.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much again. Take care, everyone. I appreciate your time.